Today we talk about Battle Cry. The first time that I heard the name of this edition, I heard the Battle Cry, the 150th anniversary edition, and I thought, whoa, this is a really old game. And then I thought, silly me, of course, that's not the anniversary of the game, but of the American Civil War, which is the topic of the game. This is a two-player game. Clearly, a side will be the Union, the other side will be the Confederates. It still plays decently with 3 or 4 players, I find, with multiple players playing one of the two sides. This really is the granddaddy of games such as Memoir 44 and Colors and Commands. This really is the game that pioneered the system. And here you do not find many of the things that you will find in later games in the system. But maybe some people will not like that. But I personally like the fact that here you really see the core system at work in its simplicity, in its elegance, and definitely there is a beauty in that, again, elegant simplicity. The new edition is similar to the old one. The old one was around the year 2000. Here, however, you have a couple of new things, like new cards, but the most important addition to me definitely is the fact that there are 15 new battles. So now you have a total of 30 battles that you can play, and that means really great replay value in this box. So now let's take a look at the game. The components in this game are all or almost all of very good quality. You have a nice looking mounted map, terrain tiles that you will use to prepare the landscape for different battles. You have a large number of absolutely nice toy soldiers. Maybe I should call them miniatures. It would sound more serious, but let's face it, that's what they are, toy soldiers, and we shouldn't be ashamed of playing with toy soldiers. You have cards that have nice design, they look very durable, custom dice. You can't go wrong with custom dice, it's always fun to play with those. The only component that is a little below average is the stickers on the flags. As you can see, those stickers tend to fall down, so you have to put them back and then press hard on them, and maybe you have to do it several times, unless of course you use a drop of glue, but I wanted to show you how the flag may look unless you take care of that. However, generally speaking, these are very good components, very pleasant to play with. At the beginning of the game, you choose one of the 30 battles included in this game, and you will set up the board following the instructions of the scenario regarding the placement of the terrain tiles and the placement of the units for the two sides. Here I've set up the Battle of First Bull Run just to give you a sense of how the board may look like at the beginning of the game. The instructions will also tell you how many cards each player receives. The scenario instructions will also tell you which player goes first and how many enemy flags you need to capture to win the game. The first player to capture that number of enemy flags is the winner. Turn sequence is simplicity itself. The player whose turn is will play a card from his hand, will execute the instructions printed on the card, and will execute those by maneuvering units on the map. Then, once that has been done, the player will draw another card from the deck to replace the card that was just played. The turn is over, it goes to the player who follows the same procedure. As you can see, the map is divided in 3 areas, a left flank, a central area, and a right flank. And of course, left and right flank are inverted for the other player. Well, many cards in the deck will be like these ones. They will indicate one or several areas on the board in which the player can activate units by playing that card, and the card will also indicate the number of units that can be activated by that card. For example, this card would allow the player to activate up to 3 units on the left flank. Now, if this is the case, the player would only be able to activate this unit here because it is the only one which is on the left flank. Units activated by orders on the cards will be able to perform certain actions on the board. Infantry and cavalry units will be able to move and then to attack. Artillery can move or attack, not both. And generals can move and attach themselves to units, detach themselves from units, but they cannot attack by themselves. Some cards will not indicate specific areas on the board, but will describe an action that the player can perform by playing that card. For example, Construct Field Works will allow the player to build defenses. Hit and Run allows a cavalry unit to move adjacent to an enemy, attack and run away. Can be pretty mean. Fight Back allows a unit that was just attacked to fight back during the opponent's turn. Again, can be pretty interesting. Battle Cry is a particularly powerful attack, and there are several other ones. but the main idea is that having these cards adds more depth to the game and adds more variability. It's good to have these unpredictable actions of different nature that can happen during the game. That prevents the flow of the game from feeling too repetitive, from becoming stale. And since some of these cards are particularly powerful, the players really need to familiarize themselves with them so that they can use them skillfully and they can prevent the opponent from using them too well during their turn. The game is played using combat units, and each combat unit is represented by a certain number of figurines. An infantry unit is represented by 4, artillery by 3, cavalry by 3, and generals by 1. With the exception of generals, combat units cannot share the same hex, they cannot move through one another, and once a unit starts losing figurines during combat, reduced units cannot combine their figurines together. On the other hand, generals can move by themselves on the map, or they can share an X with another unit and they can be attached to a unit. If that happens, the general lends certain combat advantages to that unit. Activated infantry units move by 1 hex, activated artillery also moves by 1 hex, activated cavalry can move by 3, they can go pretty fast, and generals too move by 3. Once all movement is completed, then all activated cavalry units and activated infantry units, together with the activated artillery units that did not move, can attack the enemy. To perform an attack, the attacking unit must target an enemy unit which is in range, and the attacking unit must have a line of sight to that target. And line of sight can be obstructed by terrain features such as hills and woods. It's pretty intuitive what are the things that will block a line of sight. Artillery can attack enemies that are up to 5 axes away. Actually, if the artillery unit is on a hill, the range becomes 6. Infantry can attack enemies that are up to 4 axes away, and cavalry can only attack adjacent enemies. Cavalry usually rolls 3 dice against the enemy. An infantry unit will roll 4 dice when attacking an enemy adjacent to it, and then the number of dice will decrease by 1 for each X of distance from the target. So actually that unit will roll 3 dice when attacking this X, 2 dice here and 1 die there at maximum range of 4. Artillery attacks are based on the same idea, but artillery has a range of 5 and also a starting firepower of 5 dice. So artillery will roll 5 dice here, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the number of dice rolled against a unit may be modified by the terrain in which the unit is, because certain terrains will offer protection and will reduce the number of dice that are rolled against that unit. Then to resolve the attack, the appropriate number of dice is rolled. Suppose I am attacking that infantry unit. The dice will inflict a hit on the enemy for each symbol that is rolled that matches the type of unit that is being attacked: infantry, cavalry, or artillery. Also, it is important to notice that there are 2 symbols showing infantry on each die, but only 1 cavalry and 1 artillery. That means that the infantry will tend to be hit much more often. In this case, these 2 dice will inflict a hit each. Artillery doesn't hit infantry. Sabers inflict a hit on any type of unit, so in this case I have 3 hits on that unit. For each hit I remove a figurine from the target unit. The figurine with the flag is the last one to be removed. Then I see if there are flags that have been rolled. For each flag that was rolled, the survivors of that unit must retreat by 1 X toward the friendly side of the board, unless that unit was sharing an X with an attached general. In that case, that unit may choose to ignore a flag. Doesn't have to, but may want to in certain situations. Once you eliminate the last figurine in a unit, and that will be the figurine with the flag, you collect that figurine, you place it on the flag track on your side of the board. The first player to collect the number of flags indicated by the scenario instructions will be the winner. The game clearly is very simple and straightforward, and while this has huge advantages, at the same time this may actually turn off certain players. When you set the game up, you really get the sense that the game was researched, but then once you start playing it, the system abstracts so much from the historical events that it does take a certain degree of suspension of disbelief to be able to see the battle in what is actually happening on the board. And sometimes Civil War enthusiasts and or seasoned war gamers really don't feel comfortable about this. Also realism and not realism, there are aspects of the system that not everybody likes. The fact that you have to keep units in all areas of the board feels like a limitation to some players, because of course leaving an area completely empty is a bad idea. Even if you have units in every area, still you may have the dead hand problem, because you may need to activate a certain area to be able to do something that's really important to you in that moment, and you keep getting cards that only apply to another area on the board, and there will be games that you will lose simply because you do not get the cards that you need and the other player does, which of course can be maddening if you get to serious about this. But if you are able to take this with certain levitas, then actually it's not such a big deal. This being said, if you can digest these aspects, the game certainly has a lot of advantages. The game, again, on the plus side, is fast. Once players know what to do, you can play a battle in 30-40 minutes, which is great. You can teach the game in 5 minutes to war gamers and non-war gamers, which is another great thing. You can get war gamers, non-war gamers interested in playing a war game. I played this game with undergrads that never played a war game, but they wanted to know more about the Civil War, and they want to say, oh, let's play. I've heard about Fredericksburg in a class, and we were able to set up the game and play it. That was a great way to get them interested in the topic. So there definitely are good things. A good thing that may be counterintuitive is that the game may appeal to experienced war gamers precisely because it has such a minimal set of rules that it easily allows the system to be expanded by the players. War gamers can easily house rule things and add and change things to make the game into something else. You may have games that are not realistic enough to be completely satisfying per se, but still have enough rules that you have to do a lot of work before you can make that into a game that you will have fun playing. Not here. You can just change and expand things very easily. The system is very flexible precisely because there isn't much to start with. Almost feels at times like a kit to build your own Civil War game, or actually you can create battles and scenarios that have nothing to do with the Civil War. Just the system is so flexible. You can make it as complex as you want. The system will not get in your way, will always allow you to do that. So, bottom line is that if you can get past certain aspects that not everybody likes, I think this is really a game that can give you a lot. It's a game that is fun to play, very fast paced, the action is continuous, the back and forth is really, really fast, so that keeps you hooked, keeps you interested in the action. It is a game that, simply put, is very fun to play. I believe there is a reason why this game has been so successful and it is considered a modern classic. And to me, this is a title that this game really deserves.